Good morning, and thank you all for joining us today. We are just 75 days out until the federal Real ID deadline takes effect. On May 7th of last year, we stood in this same room and we alerted Illinoisans about the deadline and strongly encouraged residents to avoid waiting until the final months to get a Real ID. And while many heeded that warning, with a record number of Illinoisans obtaining a Real ID in 2024, there still remains a sizable number who have yet to apply. With less than 2.5 months remaining until the deadline, I want to take this opportunity to deliver a slightly altered but equally important message to ensure a smoother process as the deadline approaches. First off, there has been a lot of confusion and misinformation when it comes to Real IDs, so let me try to clarify. As of May 7th, if you have a current valid standard driver's license, you do not need a Real ID to legally drive a vehicle. You do not need a Real ID to show identification. You do not need a Real ID for proof of citizenship. As of May 7th, you will need a Real ID compliant driver's license or state ID if you are over the age of 18 and intend to fly a commercial airline or certain federal or visit certain federal facilities. But let me be very clear. You can still fly if you have a valid U.S. passport. You can still fly if you have a valid U.S. passport. I don't want to discourage anyone from getting a Real ID, but the fact is that not everyone needs a Real ID on May 7th, and in some cases, might not ever need one. I want to say that again. I don't want to discourage anyone from getting a Real ID, but the fact is that not everyone needs a Real ID on May 7th, and in some cases, might not ever need one. However, if you do need one to fly on May 7th or 30 days beyond that date, I recommend getting one sooner rather than later. To get a Real ID, you'll have to visit an Illinois DMV facility. We know Illinoisans are busy, which is why we have been working to ensure that our facilities can quickly and efficiently process Real ID requests. Our employees are ready to serve you, and I should mention have done a tremendous job stepping up to meet this unprecedented demand. Most of our facilities in the Chicago area and larger cities across the state require appointments, so visit our website or call to schedule one. Recently, we added more than 2,500 daily appointments at these facilities specifically for Real IDs. Those appointments fill up fast, but we add new day of appointments at each facility every morning and new appointments for later in the week each afternoon. If you can't make it to your appointment, please respond to the text and cancel it. This will help free up additional appointments for others. We are seeing a drastic uptick in last-minute cancellations. So please be thoughtful if you know that you will not be showing up to your appointment. The most important thing you can do before visiting a facility is planning ahead and knowing what to bring. The federal government, not us, requires that residents provide multiple forms of identification. Again, this is a federal program. When applying for a Real ID, you'll need to show the following: proof of identity, such as a U.S. passport or birth certificate, proof of a valid Social Security number, such as a Social Security card or W-2, 2 forms of proof of Illinois residency, and verification of your written signature. To make it easier to navigate, we have created an interactive checklist available at realid.ils.gov. Now, I know that many of you will view the May 7th deadline with some skepticism, and rightfully so. The Federal ID Act, which was enacted in 2005 and was meant to take effect in 2008, has been extended multiple times. The reasons for the delays have run the gamut, ranging from partisan politics to a lack of coordination among the federal government and various states. More recently, the deadline was extended twice as a result of the lingering COVID-19 pandemic, the last time in December 2022. 17 years have gone by since then, and now the deadline is officially May 7th, 2025. And I know many of you are asking yourselves, after years of blown deadlines, delays, and extensions, why should we trust the Department of Homeland Security now? You get asked on a regular basis, is this Real ID deadline for real this time? The one thing that's different this time around is that TSA just recently published a, quote, final rule rejecting the option for another extension and requiring the regulation to finally take effect. In doing so, the TSA established what it calls a phased enforcement approach that allows enforcement to take place over a 2-year period, culminating with full enforcement no later than May 5th, 2027, which is more than 2 years from now. In the meantime, the policy could allow travelers who don't have real IDs to board flights with simply a warning notice. Regardless of what it all means, we know for sure that as May 7th approaches, demand for Real ID driver's licenses and state IDs will inevitably increase. What we don't want are crazy, unmanageable lines at our facilities and major issues for individuals and their families at our airports, whether that's in Chicago or Midway, or at our airports across the state in the Quad Cities, Peoria, Champaign, Bloomington, or even for residents flying out of Lambert and St. Louis. And waiting until the last minute, if you need one, will guarantee headaches and heartaches at airports and wait times at our facilities. I don't want to discourage anyone from getting a Real ID, but before scheduling an appointment, please make sure that you'll need one before the May 7th deadline. Thank you all again for being here, and I'll take any questions that you may have. Yes.
There might be people watching right now who say, oh gosh, I've got to go out to the DMV and get this done right away, but you're really urging people to make sure that they actually need it, and you don't want to see long lines as soon as this is.
That's exactly right. What we've been telling people is more than likely you do not need a Real ID by May 7th. If you have a valid passport, you can fly on the domestic flight, no problem. So make sure that you need one, and if you do, please schedule an appointment. The other component of this is since the new administration has taken over in DC, we've seen an influx of people who are confused about what Real ID means and think they need it as a form of identification, and our point that we're trying to hammer home today is that that's not the case. You can still drive a vehicle, you still have, it's a valid form of identification. You do not need a Real ID to drive a vehicle. We've seen a ton of confusion across the state of Illinois, so we're sort of fighting a battle on two fronts. To quell this misnomer that people need to get a Real ID to drive a vehicle, and for folks who think they will not get on a plane on May 7th. Both of those are untrue.
Can you touch one more time on why we need Real ID in the first place? What's wrong with our current ID?
Well, that's a federal mandate. The federal government, a long time ago, as I mentioned, decided to create this mandate to create some uniformity among travelers and to enter federal buildings. That's way above my pay grade and happened well before we were in office. So our job is to comply, but to really, we don't want to see people freaking out and sprinting to the facilities. That's the goal of today, is to help clear up some of that confusion.
One last question. Will the state be able to handle the influx of people who will naturally be coming out to make sure that they have?
That's a great question. We're obviously concerned. That's why I stood here a year ago screaming from the rooftops. That's why we created our Get Real awareness campaign. We've been traveling the state screaming from the rooftop for folks to do their homework and to get one. And so here we are, 75 days out, again, screaming from the rooftops and trying to help quell this confusion. We are trying very hard to get this message out accurately and timely. We've been on this since the day I took office. We've been really trying to bring awareness to the Real ID issues to avoid enormous challenges come April and May, not just at our facilities, but at airports. All right, anything else? I really appreciate all of you being here, and hope everyone stays warm today. Thank you so much.